Good afternoon. I'm Another View producer, Lisa Godley, sitting in for Barbara Ham-Lee. Today we'll explore a topic that's near and dear to my heart, our children and what we can do both individually and collectively to help ensure their academic success. Yes, they have technology at their fingertips, but they're also facing some pretty horrific challenges. Join me and my guests, Travis Ames, Jerry Gaines, and Tariq Muhammad, as we talk about schools and communities. Another View is next, right after this news from NPR.
Discussing the issues and celebrating the successes of the African American community. This is Another View.
Good afternoon. I'm Another View producer, Lisa Godley, sitting in for the very talented and always engaging Barbara Ham-Lee, who is all the way out on the West Coast right now, but I'm going to do my best to make her proud. Well, during the past 19 months, WHRO has participated in the American Graduate Let's Make It Happen initiative, sponsored by the Corporation for Public Broadcasting. It allows us to take an in-depth look at the dropout crisis. What are we doing right? What do we need to change, and what can we as individuals and as a community do to keep kids on track? We welcome to Another View Travis Ames, the Executive Director of Communities in Schools of Hampton Roads. Welcome. Board Chair
Thank
for
you.
Communities in Schools. Welcome, Travis.
Thank you.
And we also welcome Jerry Gaines, a mentor, author, educator, and coach. Welcome.
Thank you.
And you may hear me transition kind of back and forth from Mr. Gaines to Jerry because he's a former instructor, teacher, one of my favorite teachers, in fact. And joining us on the phone, we welcome Tariq Muhammad. Tariq is a graduating high school senior who has overcome some challenging circumstances and aspires to be a cardiac surgeon. Welcome, Tariq.
My pleasure.
Gentlemen, all of you, welcome to Another View.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
Well, Travis, I'm going to start with you. And I want you to tell folks a little bit about communities in schools and what sets them apart from other organizations.
Okay. Communities in Schools is one of the, if not the largest dropout prevention program in the United States. What makes Communities in Schools so effective is that we track and measure everything that we do. So there are about 5 core things that Communities in Schools seeks to accomplish. The first is building a one-on-one relationship with a caring adult. And the way we do that is we connect students with mentors or individuals who can provide them with positive role models or reinforce encouragement or academic support. The second thing is that we want to try to help provide a safe place for them to learn and grow. Whether that's after-school programs, non-traditional school models, we want to make sure that these kids have an environment that's conducive to learning. The third thing is we want to make sure that there's a healthy start and a healthy future. So we align ourselves with other affiliates to try to provide some of the basic health, dental care, or even food in that sense, so that these are things that are not on the top of their mind when they're engaged in learning. Fourthly, we want to have a marketable skill for them to use upon graduation. So in that sense, we would do some sort of job shadowing. We would try to set them up for those types of opportunities or some type of job readiness program. And then the last thing, the fifth thing, is that we want to give them a chance to give back. Tariq, for instance, will be one of those examples to where we would have them now come back and tell their story in a sense, and then maybe become a part of the leadership team. We've had various individuals who have gone through the Communities in Schools program to actually become employees of community schools because of the impact that it's made in their life.
Let me jump over and talk to Tariq for just a second. Tariq, how did Communities in Schools impact your life, and how did you come to be involved in Communities in Schools?
Well, a couple of years ago, my family and I unfortunately became homeless, and my mom could no longer homeschool my sister and I. I was 16 at the time, and when I re-entered the public school system, and I was faced with an overwhelming challenge of not graduating on time. Thankfully, I was introduced into the PLC program, which is an 18-month-long, non-traditional high school. And it's designed to assist high school students with earning the required credits to graduate. Although my entire high school career was hosted by the PLC, John Marshall was still my home school. There was a resource present in PLC and in most of the Richmond public schools. That resource is communities and schools. Sometimes I would begin to detrimentally question myself as to whether or not I would make it or not, graduate on time, regardless of the opportunity given to me by the PLC. That's when the heroes of communities and schools gave me some peace of mind, from personal support and counseling to small business investment classes. Communities and schools rebuilt my confidence and gave me enough strength to finish the PLC and graduate on time.
Not only are you graduating on time, you're graduating with honors. Am I not correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Where are you going from here?
I will be attending Virginia State University in the fall.
Yay. That's great. That is just wonderful. Jerry.
Yes.
As difficult as it is for me to call you Jerry as opposed to Mr. Gaines, you are a mentor extraordinaire.
Thank you.
Talk to me a little bit about, you have developed the equation of life?
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about that and what that does. For anybody that's kind of interested in mentoring and they say to themselves, let's start with that. They say to themselves, I don't know if I have what it takes to inspire. What do you say to them?
Well, I spent 40 years dealing with young people, adolescents in high schools in the Chesapeake school system. I was a teacher, I was a coach, I was an administrator. And what this equation of life is a compilation of everything that young people taught me that they needed in order to be successful. It has about 30 different components. And if any young people is exposed, if any of the young people are exposed to these components, their success is almost virtually assured. And we have to look at each child as an individual and treat them for what they are, and that is something very precious. And if they don't get their needs in that regard, they'll fall short in one way or another. They scream at us and they beg us to tell them who they are. And we need to tell them good things, because if we tell them bad things, they'll live down to our expectations as well as they'll live up to them. But they want to know who they are, and I think it's a mistake for us to teach them to be merely successful. They're going to equate success with financial success, and that's not going to make them happy. What we need to teach them is to be significant, and that's a little bit different. So you can be happy being a worker for a company, and you don't have to be the president of the company, you see. And they learn that, and significance is what they get. And I think this is what our student guest is experiencing now. He feels significant. To lose his home, it is a downer. And somebody had to come along and tell him, you can make it despite this. People have had tougher times and overcome bigger obstacles. And it's good to see.
All righty, we have Tariq, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, I was agreeing with him.
Okay.
I feel a lot better than what I did 2 years ago.
I would imagine. So how much time did you actually spend with your mentor?
Quentin Brown, my mentor, I think he works for community schools down in the Hampton Roads region now. I think I met him, a year ago. It's been a year. And almost every Wednesday we would come and talk about different things that are going on in my life now. And I actually won an essay competition in the PLC writing about him. And that kind of brought a smile to his face. And, he really appreciated that.
I'm sure he did. And I know it's always good to hear that you've made an impact on someone's life, even if you didn't know that you made an impact on their life at the time. Also joining us now is Davon Boyd, a Stamps leadership scholar who also mentors. I guess he'll be joining us in just a second. However, now, if you know a program that's working to meet the needs of today's students, or you want to tell us about a mentor who has influenced your life, I want you to give us a call at 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. And we'll continue our discussion right after this.
This is Irony Singleton, I've had the great pleasure in my short Hollywood career to have worked on The Blind Side, An Amish Murder with Neve Campbell, and of course, The Walking Dead. I'm speaking to the teenager right now. You're listening to me, teenagers. You have to find something you love. You have to stay in there. You have to, because although you may not know why it's so beneficial to stay in school, but you will as you get older. Just latch on to something that you love, and I think it'll be a lot better for you.
All righty. Inspiring words. I believe we now have Devon on the phone. Devon, are you there?
I'm there.
Talk to me a little bit about what you see in high school as far as your classmates, the challenging circumstances, because you are a mentor yourself, and you're just 18, so go ahead.
First of all, I'd like to thank you all for allowing me to participate in this radio show.
You're very welcome.
This generation that I'm a part of in terms of high school, I think we're facing a lot more tumult and trials than is displayed. Certainly there are great external influences that affect what we do. Drugs, peer pressure, alcoholism, growing things that are attributing factors to a lot of things that people are doing. I see that all the time in high school here at Granby. I think what has to occur is for students to latch onto this idea that although this is an experience that's supposed to be fun and long-lasting, there has to be work that must get done. And for one, without education, you won't be able to do much, especially in this society where now an education is valued at such a higher level than outside of the high school perimeters. So there are a lot of things I know that is affecting children. Everyone wants to fit in. No one wants to be the Hester Prynne of high school that is the societal ostracism person who's feeling everything and is being cast away because they're different. Everyone wants to fit in and belong, but it's become a problem because the in crowd is the crowd that's not doing the right things in high school, and we just have to convince our young people that that's not the route that they want to take.
And you feel mentors can do this?
Yes, I think any person can be a mentor. I think that's the role of a mentor, to step into that role and tell the young people that whatever methods that they're using to try to fit in, that's not the right way. But it all depends on the type of mentoring that you give. You know, mentoring someone by constantly abashing them for their actions is not going to work. But being empathetic towards their plight, increasing your own ambit of concern, letting them know that you understand what it feels, although high school certainly then and now is different and completely contrary to the other, but it increases the students' awareness of knowing that some people care about them. And there are a lot of students, other than myself, who also function as mentors, but it also starts in elementary school and middle school, letting them know the importance of education and beginning to emphasize not only in the schools, but at churches and homes, the importance of ascertaining the education that they need to accomplish dreams.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you so much. We have a call, I believe it's Ali calling in from Norfolk. Ali, thank you for calling Another View.
Thank you so much, Lisa. I just want to make a statement and ask a question to the panel that you brought in. First of all, I think when it comes to teaching African Americans anything about their academia, we have to go back and teach them our ancient, like Imhotep. Go back from our origin and see what our ancestors did in Kemet and Kush, ancient Egypt, and how successful they were, how brilliant they were. And that's vital. We got to teach our children their origin, not our history here in America or Africa or the Caribbean, but ancient Africa before it was called Africa. And I think that would instill them to be more academically successful in this present day. Now, the next question is, the question is, now, I think that we need more African American or black men, male teachers, strong men that's knowledgeable about all fields of academia and present that male image in the classroom more so. And I think those two things is vital to the success of our children's future when it comes to academia.
Okay, thank you so much, Ali. I know Old Dominion University is working to get more African American males in the classroom. Jerry, your thoughts about that?
Well, I think it's important that young people realize their identity according to their history. I think it's more important that they realize who they are here and now. That is history. That is important, yes. But what I have experienced in 40 years, and I've seen hundreds of thousands of young people come and go, is that I have yet to see one who is not amazingly gifted in some way. All of them are gifted. Our job then becomes a matter of identifying what that gift is and then fertilizing it, causing it to grow, and allowing them to, as one caller just said, to get into their gift and to grow in it. And they then will find that identity and then find value. And then if we fertilize properly, then that significance will come. And that will come despite their awareness of where they came from or not. And that's my experience there.
Okay. I'm curious, and I'm going to talk to both of you about this a little bit, and maybe Tariq and Devon can chime in on this as well. We keep talking about everybody being mentors. Can everybody be a mentor? Because Devon mentioned some people mentor and they kind of bring a negative, they kind of pound in on you. So can everybody be a mentor? I mean, you've been an administrator, you've been a teacher. Is that the role? Should everybody take on that role?
Well, as I said, everybody is gifted. And mentorship is not everybody's gift. Now, if people are gifted, people can possibly mentor in that area that they're gifted in. But as far as general encouragement and building and edifying young people as they desperately need, especially these days, it takes certain gifts to be able to do that. And educators, for instance, go into education not to get rich. They go into it to change lives. And so mentorship or mentoring is something that they are going to naturally be gifted at or should be gifted at doing. So they establish that identity and then give a child a sense of self-worth.
Travis, you're nodding your head.
Yes. Can I make a comment?
Absolutely.
This is a good segue into exactly what Communities in Schools does in the school model. So, for instance, you'd have an individual that needs to be identified, a child. That's step one. And what Communities in Schools would do is we would put a site coordinator in that school to work one-on-one with school staff, administration to identify these students. The second thing we would do is we would develop this plan of action to make sure that all of those 5 basic criteria that I spoke of earlier can be met with the student. Then comes the most important part, where we not only develop relationships with partnerships, programs, institutions, or relationships that are already established in the school system or in the community, and we match up with that individual exactly what they need. Because oftentimes, depending on this child's dynamic, their needs may be a little bit different. And so through our relationship efforts that we have with outside programs or even inside the school, we can make sure we match up as effectively as possible the right kind of mentor for that child. Not only mentorship, but whether it's food bank or anything like that, so that kid can specifically get what they're looking for. They may need a person who is on their level. So that's where our young mentor can step in to the table, and he can have a one-on-one presence with them from a peer perspective. Or it may be 200 plus men or something like that who does mentoring in the school systems. And so that's where Communities in Schools begins to take that piece, and we marshal that for that student, for that school, to make sure there's right connection. And then we track it to make sure it's working properly.
Yeah, talk to me a little bit about that tracking process, because that seems to be what separates you from other agencies that bring in services to students. You all track it.
That's
so
exactly
how does that
right.
work?
So think about everybody having good intentions, a great agenda. And just like Jerry is talking about, and he mentors, so he understands the school dynamic from a work perspective. And then it was almost sort of a way of learning exactly how these kids need and what you do. He talked about the 30 different assets that those kids would need. So from that perspective, a person like Jerry would come back to the school and offer his services. How does Jerry know he's effective? Who's going to keep track of when Jerry comes? How often does he meet with that kid? And how is it going? What's the product? What's the end result? Well, Jerry can do that, but then somebody in the school system is going to have to keep track of Jerry, United Way, or any other food bank or any other service. And so what Communities in Schools does is our site coordinator now, we manage, we keep track of, and we retain the data of the results, the effectiveness, so we can come back to that principle and say, here's what's happened, here's what's working right, here's what's not working right. What other relationships do we need to garner in the community to make sure that your school system or your school is actually getting the results that it needs? And that data has turned into a very valuable piece. So we're not the ones that actually go out and provide the service. We manage the services that are being provided so that those service providers can know their efficiency. And that's what makes Communities in Schools important. If there's a kid who may not fit in that school model, he may need to go into a PLC like a Tariq so he can get the support. The significance is then realized so he can continue and his dreams are not dashed. That's how the whole process works.
Wow. Okay. We have another caller, Martin, calling from Yorktown. Martin, thank you for calling Another View.
Yeah, I had one initial comment, but the more and more you all talk, more I agree with everything you all are saying, and it just makes me so happy you all are even having this conversation. I agree totally about mentors, and our youth need to have people to emulate and to look up to, and like you just touched on, they need to be positive people, and not everyone is a mentor. And another thing I just totally agree with, that so many people will talk about mentoring, but what the gentleman just said, there actually is somewhat follow-through and accountability and data that is determined to see if it is in fact working. It's not just, okay, we went through the motions and whether the child was successful or not. They're actually taking heed to whether the different steps they took worked. And I couldn't agree with it more. I think that I could have used more of mentoring whenever I was young, and not just from your parents, but from an outside person and someone that will give you a perspective from a wisdom and from a positive outlook. And thank you very much for the conversation.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that call. I want to talk a little bit to Tariq and Devon. Tariq, I'm going to start with you about your mentor. Was Quentin the only mentor that you had, or was there someone else?
Well, he was more like a mentor. There was someone else. There was Elizabeth Muse. She works for CIS of the entire state now. Mm-hmm. And she was basically what you would call my caseworker or mm-hmm. case manager, like a site coordinator, like you mentioned. And she would be the one that would like check in on me, like to see how I was doing when it came to finances and my safety wherever I was. And Quentin, my mentor now, he would be the person that would kind of get on an emotional level with me. He would be the person to tell stories with, to compare stories with, just to find some type of common ground. And so that would give him a gateway to see what he can work on with me to make sure that my head doesn't escape, just to make sure I don't become a product of my situation.
Gotcha. Okay, Devon, I didn't get a chance to talk about what you're doing now. Tell us a little bit about, I know you're graduating with a 4.6?
Yes, ma'am.
And you're heading where?
To Morehouse College.
And what will this Stamps scholarship do?
Yes, the Stamps Leadership Scholarship is a scholarship that is nationally recognized, and it's afforded to 170 students out of the 500,000 applicants who apply to it. And it affords a 4-year full-ride scholarship at the particular college. and $10,000 separate from the scholarship to use for enrichment funds, which includes studying abroad, research, undergraduate studies, and other different areas to expand on your major.
All I can say is, wow, congratulations.
Thank you.
Tell me a little bit about your mentors and how they influenced you.
You know, my mentors have been wonderful. There have always been people who've been there to help me. Miss Andrea White, who is my former English teacher, who was also my forensics coach, was a great mentor. She definitely helped me in articulating my arguments, helping me develop rhetorical skills, rhetorical principles, and doing so much more. Certainly, there are other people who have been mentors. My pastor, Reverend John D. Burden, he is the mentor. There have just been a lot of people who have poured into my life, and certainly it doesn't mean that you have to have one particular mentor, but there are other people who can serve in that position as well, because it takes a village to raise a child, as a term has always been said before. So I think it's a lot of people, a lot of combinations, a melting pot that helps build and mold a student into who they would like to be.
All righty, thank you. Now, if you're just joining us, the Another View hot topic of the day is communities and schools. I'm Another View producer Lisa Godley, filling in for Barbara Ham Lee. And joining me is Travis Ames, the chairman of the board for Communities in Schools of Hampton Roads, Jerry Gaines, a mentor, author, educator, and coach, Davon Boyd, a Stamps leadership scholar who also mentors, and Tariq Muhammad, a graduating high school senior who has overcome some challenging circumstances and aspires to be a cardiac surgeon. And we'll continue this important conversation right after these inspiring words from actor Tim Reed.
Hello, I'm Tim Reed, and for those of you who are even thinking stupidly that you could succeed by dropping out of high school, or even college for that matter, if you're in there, you're wrong. I'm an example of someone who came from nothing, born in Norfolk in poverty and segregation, and because of my education, I've traveled the world. You got to have an education to be even in the game. If not, they're building prisons all over this country for people who drop out of school.
Again, more inspiring words. We have the calls are coming in. Raymond from Newport News. You know Jerry?
Yeah, I was a student at Great Bridge High School in 1996, and I was one of the very few young black men who would be considered honor students. We had all of our GPAs were 3.1 or above, and he really did influence us when we were there to education was key, and to make good decisions and go on to college. And I do remember Mr. Gaines from back in the day. It was always funny to see him walking the hallways. He was so much taller than most of the people there. And it was one of those times in my life when someone really did you just felt someone poured into your life a little bit, and I do recall those days. So when I heard his name on the radio, I couldn't help but call and tell him, I've done fairly well for myself. I did go to college. Now I'm married with a family, and I got a pretty good career in IT for the last 10, 12 years. So I think he definitely helped influence me in a very positive way.
Wow.
Congratulations.
That's great.
Yeah,
Congratulations.
Thank you so much, Raymond. We really appreciate that call. How often do you, I know you do, all the time.
All the time. As scary as it is, I realize that my oldest students are now 60 years old.
Wow.
So my oldest students are grandparents themselves. So I've seen a few come and go. But as odd as it may sound, mentors do what they do for selfish reasons, really. Mentors, like anybody in any service industry, do what they do because they get such a charge out of watching other people succeed. So when someone calls in, like Raymond just did, and says something like that, it's like, to me, it's the ultimate drug. And that's what motivated me to start our foundation. We have a nonprofit called My Brother's Keeper, Not My Brother's Killer. And that's exactly what we do. And we don't just limit it to young people. The young people, of course, my strength, but my brother does adults right up through adult life, because everybody needs this. Everybody needs to know that there's somebody significant where they belong, and they need to know that they're valuable and that they're cherished. And so that's what we try to do. And so when someone like Raymond comes in, it's not a surprise, but it's always thrilling. And I have them all over the world. And I tell a story about a professor who's at Auburn University, and he's a PhD in accounting. And he's been there for 16 years. And I taught him in grades 9 through 12. And everybody's all so impressed about that, but they don't even know that I taught his mother, too.
Wow.
You see, so it is just a thrill upon a thrill when kids come back and they say how much they appreciate the contributions you made, and I call it glorious selfishness is the term I go on for.
Okay, if you have a story you'd like to share with us about a mentor who changed your life, give us a call, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Duncan is joining us from Chesapeake. Duncan, you have a story you'd like to share?
Yeah, I went to Great Bridge too. Not too long ago. I graduated in 2007, and I was big in math back then, but I wasn't really figuring out what I wanted to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a teacher named Miss Rotensky, and she really motivated me to try hard, and she gave us good incentives. Like she'd buy us lunch if we got A's on our report card.
That's always a good incentive.
Yeah, it was great. After her class, I was really motivated to try hard in everything I did, and got me into college, and now I'm in grad school for my doctorate.
Oh, wonderful. Congratulations, and thank you for calling. I am curious for Tariq and Devon. You've been mentored. Are you, and I know that Devon does some mentoring now. Is this something you all feel like you'll just continue to do, sort of like that pass it on kind of thing?
Devon, did you want to speak first?
Oh, you can go first.
Okay. Well, one thing I learned about being kind of like just being a vehicle of good mentorship. One thing I learned was that I didn't really have a certain way I would have to get to my career goal. Right now, I'm working with the Virginia Biotechnology Research Center on a novel treatment of mine for a type of heart disease. And whenever I would tell my mentor about my research, he would always say that he would do anything he could to help me. When he said that let me know that people are supporting me, even if all I need is to support myself. There are people there that are believing in me, even when I doubted myself, still believing in me.
Wow.
Even when I would say things like far-fetched or just over his head, he would still say he would help me. And that did a lot of things for my heart and my mind.
Okay. Devon?
Being a mentor, I think, is something more than a title or a profession. It's a way of life. And once we realize that you don't have to have the titular position of a mentor, that we all can be a mentor in someone or some way to someone if we have the gifts and the tools and the talents to do so, then we all can make a difference. Part of the problem that I see in terms of the people of my generation is there's such a strong, nearly compelling, almost hypnotic influence on our young people by media and entertainment, where the influence of mentorship is being dissuaded because there's a negative influence that's affecting how young people perceive themselves to be. For an example, when it comes down to something in the basketball profession or sports, a lot of young people, especially African-American males, have begun to stereotypically fit themselves into only being that star basketball player that's going to go into the NBA, or that star football player that's going to get drafted in the first round to the NFL. And when that happens, it limits and inhibits what our young people can do, because that is defined as what success is. Success in that case is defined as having all the women, having all the money, being able to do whatever is necessary. So then that's the problem that I see, and I don't want to fit into that. So out of my own experience, I say to my peers that that's not the way it's supposed to go. That's not the way that it has to go. Certainly there are other careers, there are other professions that you can choose to do better and to better society, to be that humanitarian, to be that person that leads a global initiative, to do something that's absolutely revolutionary. knowing that you have the tools and the talents necessary to do so. It really comes down to me, for my part, for my case, for my instance, is how passionate am I about this? Do I really want others' lives to be changed? And the answer to that is yes. Not only because I'm tenacious about my endeavors and I want to do them, but because I know how it feels to be, again, like I said earlier, that Hester Prentice society that's cast away as being the outsider. And I want to bring those outsiders into a bigger circle, a circle of achievement, a circle of success, a circle of excellence in things that are outside the realms of what society wants them to do.
Right.
And once I'm able to figure out and pinpoint, again, in what ways I can do this, then a lot of successful things happen because I've seen it happen before.
Okay, let me get Jerry to jump in on this because he's been a coach and he's a mentor, and that's true. I do hear a lot of young people, not as many as I used to, but I do hear young people say, "Well, I'm going to be a professional basketball player. I'm going to be a professional football player," and you've coached football.
Sure.
You don't want to squash somebody's dream, but how do you approach that?
It goes right back to something that I said before about the difference between success and significance. If we teach and preach success, they will equate that to money, who has more stuff. The same motivation is there for the person who wants to be a superstar drug dealer. It's a money thing, and it's not about who has the most stuff. Probably the best payback to me is social media. Basically because I get the opportunity to follow students right up through their years in whatever it is they do, like Duncan called just a minute ago, or I think it was Duncan or Raymond. Raymond called, and I see that one is coaching baseball in Rockville, Maryland, and another is a teacher. Now, I have I mentored Justin Upton, okay, who was a student at Great Bridge, and of course he's starring with the Atlanta Braves. And again, you have to mentor them and let them know that this is just stuff. There's more to you than just the car and the house and the money and all of that. And so it boils right back down to what I said before about them seeing who they are, and they won't actually get a sense of self-worth until they realize that their worth and their significance lies in their ability to generate quality relationships with other people. Mm-hmm. That is the key. And so many people miss it. And what Davon was talking about was the world brainwashes you into thinking that it's all about you. And teenagers are particularly vulnerable to that. They want the stuff, and they want to walk in the first day of school with all the Nike this and that. And it's not all about that. It's all about who you are. So the character wins, the integrity wins, and it's not preached like it once was. And so that's why so many kids miss it. So that brings the necessity then of there being more mentors out there to help refocus them on what matters most.
Okay. All right. If you'd like to join our discussion, please give us a call, 440-2665 or 1-800-940-2240. Kimberly from Virginia Beach has joined us now. Kimberly, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Thank you for calling.
Thank you for having me. I am calling on behalf of my husband, Du Bois Scott, who is not presently with me because he is working as a teacher at Indian River High School.
Uh-huh.
But I know that Mr. Gaines has been very influential in his life. My husband started off at Crestwood, and then he went to Great Bridge, and he did basketball. He's an African-American male who teaches English, and he just had a difficult way. But Mr. Gaines truly helped him out, just in talking to him, just being there, just supporting him. And today, Du Bois, he's a wonderful husband. He's a wonderful father. He's a like I said, he's an English teacher, and I see how he is now being a positive role model in the lives of young men, how Mr. Gaines was in his life. So it's just like it just has reverberated through his life, and teaches that to his children. And although I don't know if they've ever met Mr. Gaines, truly know, that this man has been an inspiration to him. And I just want to say thank you, because without what you instilled in him and motivated him to be, then I truly wouldn't have the benefit of the man I have today.
Wow.
So thank you very much.
There you go.
He's a fine man, Kim, and all I did was blow the dust off of him because he was a diamond already.
Well, thank you so much.
Sure.
You know, I love that whole thing you say about diamonds. Every time I hear it, it just warms my heart. Can you repeat that for our listeners?
There's a lot of similarities between human beings and diamonds, I think. Diamonds are formed beneath the earth, and the earth actually gives birth to them. But in order for a diamond to be birthed into the world, nature takes a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and a lot of time. And it takes just those three qualities to generate good quality young people. Like Davon, when you hear him speak, you hear both of those guys speak, you hear that they've been polished. Teenagers don't always want to obey. They don't always want to do the right thing. So like a diamond, takes some grinding to polish them.
A lot of grinding.
But only a diamond is hard enough to polish another diamond. So that responsibility falls on us as parents, as mentors, as adults around them. Like I said, they scream at us and they say, tell me who I am. We need to tell them, look, you're a diamond. Let me polish you. It might hurt. The friction might grind a little bit of you away, but you'll be a gemstone when I finish with you. And this is what people are calling back and saying. And this is what Davon's going to go, and he's going to create the same thing. He's going to polish some other people, and that's what this organization does. And what goes around comes around in that regard, and everybody ends up shining their brilliance on the rest of the world. That's who we're supposed to be, and everybody it seems is missing it. But if you look at, for instance, with all the tragic things we've had recently with the shootings in schools and whatnot, there are always diamonds that show up. There are always heroes that show up. The professor who survived the Holocaust was killed. The teachers who protected their kids at Sandy Hook, the same thing. All of them were diamonds. They were polishing those kids, and they're willing to sacrifice even their lives to help save these kids. It's an amazing thing. But the shame of it all is that there shouldn't be any heroes. There shouldn't be any heroes. Heroes have one thing in common. They all help other people. And why should we honor people for doing what we should all do for each other anyway?
That's a very good point. That's a very good point. I want to get back to, because we only have about a little less than 4 minutes left in this conversation. I want to ask you just a little bit about, I know that Communities in Schools is in 27 states across. And here in Hampton Roads, you're serving what cities?
In Hampton Roads, we're serving Hampton, Portsmouth, and we're in talks with Norfolk Public Schools to serve Norfolk as well.
Wonderful. And you all deal with careers. I mean, it's just, there's so much.
There is a lot to what we do. I think, again, it goes back to managing the relationships that affect the kids. And that was my major driver for getting involved. I have 4 kids, and my 4-year-old will be entering public school. All of my kids are in public school.
Okay.
So the things that Devon was talking about with social media, I see those things at play. I see kids not being engaged, and I see kids not being challenged, or they're not being identified properly so they can be engaged and challenged and taught properly. And so what does a child do? Well, they go to the thing that makes them feel good or significant, as Jerry talked about. Social media does that. It gives them that opportunity to feel significant. So they latch onto that, and then they're disinterested in that school environment. And so that's kind of where Communities in Schools will engage in those other types of relationships to try to help bring that kid back around and do as Jerry said. Let's just dust off that diamond, polish it up, and see if we can turn it into another 5-star. And that's the essence of what Communities in Schools does.
Now, what if people want to get involved or want to, would like to see you in their city, or what's the process?
Wow,
we don't have enough time.
Well, there's a 30-second answer.
Okay, all right. Give me the 30-second answer.
The 30-second answer is a school system. A city would have to want to see the need for Communities in Schools. And then we would meet and try to talk about some of the things they want to accomplish. And then we would have to sign an MOU and those sorts of things. So it's a little bit greater than just, hey, I want to help. Here's my name and number. The best way for that individual to get engaged would be to reach out to an organization who does mentoring specifically, or they do job shadowing specifically. They have a function in the community already. From that standpoint, when we go to that company or program that has the relationship, then we can find that individual and engage them, and then invite them into the school system for the appropriate kid and relationship based on that sense.
Okay, we have about 30 seconds left, if that. And I want everybody to say goodbye or give a word of encouragement before they leave. Tariq, we'll start with you.
Well, it was a pleasure getting to hear everybody speak, and I would like to leave with a quote, if that's okay.
Go right ahead.
Our lives begin to end the day we become silent to the things that matter. And that is Martin Luther King Jr.
Thank you so much. Devon, about 10 seconds.
All right. Thank you for allowing me to be up here. And I would also like to end with a quote by Nelson Mandela. Education is the most powerful weapon you can use to change the world. We need to start using it more often.
Okay. And Jerry?
I have a very short one. Get right or get left.
Okay, I like that. All right. Thank you all so much for being our guests today on Another View. We're going to hear a word right now from Claude McKnight.
Hi, I'm Claude McKnight of the group Take 6. I just wanted to talk to you for a minute. You know, my group, we're all products of higher education, but more importantly, it was very important for us to make sure we all stayed in and got our high school degrees and then moved on from there. If you're thinking about dropping out, don't do it. At this time, it makes so much more sense to get that education and from there decide what you want to do. It's very hard to do much in this life if you don't have that high school education.
For more than 30 years, Dennis Edwards worked as a television journalist. Now a columnist, he takes readers on a historic journey as he writes about growing up in Suffolk, Virginia, during the end of segregation. Dennis Edwards always knew that the things he experienced growing up in Suffolk were interesting. So when this seasoned journalist returned home, it just made sense to write about his childhood adventures, the people he shared them with, and the lessons he learned.
I'd always wanted to write about the people that I grew up with, people who were just role models, you know, Dr. Colden, T.E. Cook, folks like Dr. Sullivan, my Uncle Walter. These were all very interesting people who back in the 60s, very well-educated folk that were incredible role models, but, you know, we got up and got out so fast that we never really got a chance to say thank you.
He says as a child, his dad used to write for the Suffolk News Herald and would often take him to work.
He wrote the colored news section. And when I was a kid, like 4 years old, he would take me and he would type up his copy, and I'd be around his feet, climbing all over his shoulders, and he was typing out his copy, and he'd take me by the finger and drop his copy off. And so one Friday we did that, came home that Sunday morning. My father went to church, and he died of a massive heart attack.
Dennis went on to graduate from Suffolk High School and later Virginia Union to become a television journalist, which took him to markets like St. Louis, Detroit, and Baltimore.
I've done television all my career, and I never thought about doing anything in the area of newspapers, but something kept saying go over to the Suffolk News.
With encouragement from the editor, Dennis began writing columns.
Started writing about growing up in my neighborhood, about the field. It was where we played football and baseball and basketball. Blacks played there, whites played there, but never together. And a lot of interesting life lessons were learned there.
In the 9 months since he returned home to Suffolk, Dennis has written more than 30 columns for the Suffolk News Herald.
And I write about stuff that happened on the field, which was our playground. We were kind of at the end of segregation, but we all got along extremely well because we were raised with the same values: independence, self-reliance, education, all that. It's just that we were in different homes in different parts of the city. So when we got together, there really was very little conflict, if any at all, back then.
We asked him to share an excerpt from his column titled "The Message I Didn't Deliver."
My brother, who back in the mid-'60s played trumpet for the Booker T. Bears band, he was practicing in the backyard, and so I was playing on the field, which was in the middle of the 200 block of St. James. To the north were white families, to the south, black families. While I was playing out there, a young girl who was white, she called me over. I didn't know she knew who I was. I was kind of surprised. She said, "Is that your brother playing the trumpet?" I said, "Yeah, that's him." She wanted to know all about him and everything else, and I could tell there was an interest. And so she said, "Well, look, I tell you what, do me a favor, give him a message. Tell him that I like the way he plays the trumpet." And I kind of got excited, and I jumped on my bike and ran home. So I go in the house, and I asked my mom, where's my brother? Where is he? And she said, "Well, he hadn't gotten home from band practice yet. What's going on?" I told her. I'm gonna listen like, "Oh, she sounds like she has good taste." And she kind of looked at me and then thought a little bit. And so I said, "Well, I came home to tell Leroy." And she said, "Well, baby, do me a favor. Don't tell your brother what she said." And the words kind of hung out there. Back then, something that innocent could have turned into something very, very dangerous. And so she told me not to tell him, and I didn't tell him until 30 years later.
His columns also tell stories of concerned neighbors, mentors, and family members whose influential words and actions shaped his life.
They carved their standards for behavior and achievement into each of our souls. They loved us, cried with us, and at times laughed at us. These souls are always reminding me who I am, where I came from, and no matter what happens in life, to me or otherwise, whom they still expect me to be.
For Another View, I'm Lisa Godley. Time now for things to view and do in Hampton Roads.
You will be my Saturday love.
If you're looking for a free summer camp, registration for Camp Inspire 2013 is open now. It is sponsored by the City of Norfolk for teens by teens at the Vivian C. Mason Arts and Technology Center. You can get the registration form at twpthemovement.org. Fort Monroe returns to their second annual Music by the Bay. The summer concert series is located in the gazebo in Continental Park. The band concerts are held every Thursday at 7 p.m. All concerts are free. You're invited to the 7th Annual Community Health Fair at the Virginia Beach Higher Education Center. It's tomorrow from 10 until 2, sponsored by NSU. Along with the various types of health screenings, there will be prizes and entertainment for the whole family to enjoy. For more information, call 368-4150. And in celebration of Father's Day, Paint the Town Blue is staging 2 prostate health education symposiums for National Men's Health Week. One is at the Carver Memorial Presbyterian Church in Newport News on June 15th from 9 until 1. The other is at Basilica of St. Mary in Norfolk on June 16th. For more information, call 244-3893 or 722-4487. Join us for the upcoming All Together Brown Bag discussion. The organization will speak on people affected by state custody issues. The meeting will be held at the Williamsburg Baptist Church on Richmond Road in Williamsburg, June 17th at noon. For more information, call oarric.org. That's visit that. Now, if you're a rising junior or senior in high school, the Excel Youth Leadership Program is giving you an opportunity to make a difference and be a leader. The program provides experiences and training to prepare for the future. The location is Hampton Roads Chamber of Commerce from July 17th through the 19th. Download the application at leadhamptonroads.org. These events and more are on our website, anotherview.org. If you haven't already, please sign up for our eView newsletter, a once-a-week reminder of upcoming shows. Thank you for joining Another View.